Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sawagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
MPC Abyofuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political,
well researched,
accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Yes, State House oba ghetto.
Ani ayugayuga ku ground.
Ani gwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kiza Besije aleesa amaanyi.
Olwofadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwojema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF bamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simayanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamwanyiga mawu.
Ebe na birindira nokuda Political Dice ku the Alternative Digitalk nange teditenje ewamune.
Farida bikobere
Buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hotline Show, and my name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Today is the 22nd day of July 2024, and a lot of things are happening in this part of the world, that is Uganda, but also the rest of the globe. We were surprised by the decision made by the President of the United States as we speak, Joe Biden. He decided that he's not going to be standing for the presidency against Trump. And this comes at a time when many people have been commenting on the quality of leadership this person is offering, mainly looking at his age, saying that he's too old to lead the United States of America. He's 81 years, and some people say he has a condition that brings him to forget a few details here and there. And with all this background, we saw the president of the strongest country in the world coming out to say, time is enough for me, this is where I can go. I'm old, let me retire and get back to my home. Is that something that we can talk about today? Because as we're speaking, Mr. Museveni in September will be making 8 years. Does he still have the momentum to take this country forward? Is he really behind the decisions that are being made in the country? And is he a person that is eligible to lead the population? In fact, 50% of Uganda's population is below the age of 18. We shall be talking about that. And of course, there is the much-awaited March to Parliament that was scheduled for the 23rd of July, 2024, which is tomorrow. A few people from Uganda's social media have come out to actually say they're going to be marching to Parliament in order to highlight the problem of corruption that this country has been having for a long time. Remember, the IGG informed Ugandans that over 10 trillion shillings is lost annually to corruption. So various Ugandans, without any political party, without any leader as we speak, have decided that tomorrow they shall be marching to Uganda's August House. They say they are demanding first for the resignation of the Speaker of that House, and of course trying to say that it's now time for corruption to end. Various people with decorum, people who are celebrities in this country, have come out to talk about this particular march. How feasible is it? The police came out also saying, in fact, President Museveni, while talking to the country, addressing the country on Saturday last week, hinted on this issue and said, you are playing with fire if you think this is the way to go. But remember, the constitution of this country gives every Ugandan a right to peaceful assembly and trying to demonstrate and show their grievances, as long as they are doing it in a peaceful way. How does this move about? We shall talk about this. And of course, where is the thin line between police and the protesters? How can we ensure that the protesters talk about what is the issues that are affecting them, but also the police, in their mandate to protect and serve Ugandans, how can they really work together in order to have a peaceful country? This evening, I'm joined by the usual suspects, the panelists of this particular show. I'll start on my extreme right. He is a former member of the UPDF that is retired, Major Awich. He's now the director for the National Resistance Movement. He calls it the mighty NRM. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Director External Affairs.
Thank you, sir.
Was he in UPDF or NRA?
Was in NRA. Later on the constitutional transition, picked me up.
Yeah.
But I'm the original NRA.
And the organization remains NRA. And the regime is NRA.
But why does everybody who talk about the NRA bring out the original?
Because in two ways. The main thing is to differentiate it from the transition constitutionally, from NRA to UPDF. And also to show that as time goes on, in the UPDF there were new recruitment which were really UPDF and didn't know much about NRA.
All right, thank you, sir. It's always a privilege to have you on the show. The other gentleman I was talking about was President Museveni. When, after the protests of 2020, he was making remarks about what happened and the people who were killed. And he hinted on anybody who's trying to disorganize the original NRA. That's why I had to point out that. Next is Charles Kazooba. He is the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. You can call it CAADS. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to be here once again with Major Awich, who has been reoriented after the Chankwanzi meeting.
Yeah, last week we didn't
Because
have.
you hear him now, it's speaking of NRA, then Museveni is speaking of NRA. They are just merely threats. We are all Ugandans.
We shall talk about that later. And lastly, but definitely not least, a gentleman from Uganda's People's Congress, that is Honorable Joseph Ochieno. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a very sad evening for me that a date like tomorrow, where young Ugandans should be anxiously trying to challenge older ones like us if we would be carrying bottles of water to go and support them in the struggles for the liberation of the economics. You know, these NRA bandits led by Mr. Museveni could dare and say what he said, forgetting that, you know, when he went to the bush, you know, he inconvenienced the majority of our people in Luweero, and in a very crude way. But there was something also very strange about Mr. Museveni and his NRA. The original thing, the whole thing is NRA, and I've always been telling you guys, this regime is NRA. You see, the colors come when they're sort of when they're mini challenged. Yeah, but it's rather cheek of Mr. Museveni to say that, you know, don't disturb our people who are selling their things in the streets. I always see them selling in the streets. Does most Ugandans know that when Mr. Museveni is traveling around Kampala, the city is blocked for 3 hours for this one man from the bush?
We shall start from there, no problem. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You use the word bandits. That's a word that the former president used to use. Isn't that disrespectful to the people who have been at the helm of this country?
It's the most appropriate word. The other one would be harsher, because what they were involved in was absolutely criminality. It was rebellion against the state.
They had valid reasons for that, but
what did they?
What
were the valid reasons?
Let me
no, I can't let you off with that one.
As the debate started,
what were the valid? What were the valid reasons?
Let's bring the debate. Let's bring the topic of discussion.
I wanted to also inform him that if they are really proud of NRA, they should look for their colleagues. I know so many of their colleagues who are hustling. Some even are homeless. I know so many. So you cannot take pride in belonging to NRA, whereas your colleagues are somewhere suffering.
Okay. You gang up on him. Let me also give him an opportunity.
It
feels like you're ganging up on it's even the discussion has not
yet started. Awich is my brother, and I'm very disappointed I'm sitting far from him because of all his heart.
I wanted to respond to these gentlemen in anything they've raised. What do you want to say about their statements?
First of all, the statement is so spontaneous. It's not structured. I would rather have wished it to flow in the flow of the debate that we shall have. Because it's so spontaneous, like he's talking about colleagues, and he's talking about the status of a revolutionary movement in fighting a just cause. He's talking about the disturbance he claims the president gives. So it's really, I would rather let it pass, and we take on a flow of the normal debate, and I will capture it in there.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I'll start with you, Charles. What do you think of Joe Biden's decision of not coming back to power? I start with you because this is your area of study, and you're into diplomacy. What does this mean when he decides not to run for presidency again?
You know, by the time Joseph Biden decided to step down from the race, the whole world was becoming disgusted. Sorry to use the strong word. Because you would see that the gentleman was literally being pushed into a race that was wearing him down physically. His memory was on and off. Remember when he called Zelensky of Ukraine, he called him Putin.
Yes.
Then he called his vice president, Kamala Harris, he called him Trump. So it appears
in a space of like an hour or two.
So most of us were really worried. We felt the man was being pushed because of the hate the state machinery has against Donald Trump. It's good that he has made a decision. Even within his own party, he was under pressure just a few days before him stepping down. Obama himself had made reservations. The donors were also beginning to pull out. So Biden had to really get out. And not that he's a bad leader, no. Age had caught up with him. He really needs to rest. Well, his vice president, who is now holding the flag for the party.
Is she holding the flag? I think just
it is automatic. She will be nominated. It is just automatic because everybody now is just behind her. I've seen Obama, who has also hesitated to endorse her. I don't know why, but she has the backing. Now, she's new, literally new into politics, having served as Senate, I think, for one term, then Vice President. She's a true liberal person. She defends women's rights, she defends children's rights, she defends gay rights. She's a person for the vulnerable, really. She just married a gentleman from a Jewish family. Herself, her roots are from Jamaica, the father, and India, the mother. So I'm telling you all that because she's likely to mobilize mass support from these people. If you look at how she defends the women, so women will obviously vote for her. Then already Hillary Clinton has endorsed her. Then the people of color in the US are also likely to back her. Now with Trump is still damaged because of the cases, but we also cannot underestimate him. I think so far really Trump, it is as if God is on his side, having missed having missed prison. He also missed death narrowly with attempted assassination. So the race is likely to be very competitive between the two, Trump and Kamala.
But can Kamala pull off?
It is very likely. It is very likely because Kamala is likely to be supported by the people who are in his class. Even the state machinery favors Kamala. The reason,
about maybe lastly, the electoral college also.
The reason also for Trump, you know, Trump is seen as too close to Putin. They see her as somebody who is likely.
Okay, maybe just point out, can she actually, because you mentioned she may compete when it comes to the majority vote.
Yes.
But can she be able to take power and become president? Because Hillary won the majority vote.
It is very true. It is very true. But like I've told you, Trump is somehow damaged goods. because of his track record. The way he managed his first term of office, it wasn't very good for people of color. So many people, frustrated a number of people. And his conduct itself was so unbecoming of a head of state. Although I know for a fact that Africans want Trump in office. But in reality, a lot might not change for us as Africans, apart from him in the government, because for them they are scared of anybody that promotes civil and political rights. They don't want an American president who holds that as an agenda, because it doesn't favor their interests.
Okay, let's wait and see. We shall talk about their interests as we come to. Can we say that a person who is that old, 80 plus, or 70s, cannot actually lead a country? Can we use Joe Biden's decision as a litmus test to say maybe it's actually possible or not right when a person who's that old leads a country? What do you think?
No, I must say Joe Biden did a courageous thing to opt opt out, and the reason being that it's a traditional American culture that once somebody becomes president, because the maximum term is 2, most of them tend to go for seek re-election for their 2 terms almost as a given. And so the last 2 people who missed out on that were Jimmy Carter, who long before we were born, but President Carter, although he served only 1 term in the 60s, 70s, ended up being amongst the best American leaders known in terms of civility, civil rights, international relations, and diplomacy. And after Carter came Bush's father, who served 1 term, and then of course after Bush's father, it was Trump who had that extraordinary, disastrous 1 term that, as my brother suggests, I find it very strange that Africans support Trump for whatever reason they do. I have respect for friends of mine who are in the Republican Party who are Africans, some of them African Ugandans, and because they're in the Republican Party, quite understandably, there's no reason why they would not go with the person who's favored by the party. But I generally hope that in many cases it's not because they support Trump as a person. Trump is a racist, Trump is a misogynist, Trump is narcissist, Trump is Trump, and Trump is rather Trumpy. For the record, one of the reasons why Trump emerged into this thing was Africans should not forget, possibly they don't know, one of the reasons why Trump won the elections was because he came from the extreme right wing of American politics to counter Barack Obama, my distant brother, who had bombed the world with hope, and scared the Caucasian establishment of white and Saxon Americans when he won the presidency. But starting with merely Barack Obama's candidature, Trump was the millionaire, big, rich person who fought extremely hard to dump the idea that Barack Obama was a Muslim, a nonsense, but think the American psyche. Hossein Obama, one, and then to push for the idea of citizenship that Barack Obama was not an American citizen, was born in Hawaii, where the home place of his mother, both of which were not true. So it didn't rub. Obama goes on to beat the American establishment by winning the Democratic Party nomination, defeating Hillary Clinton, whom I know the NRA guys favored because of the relation between NRA regime and the Clinton administrations and the Hillarys of the time, and partly also for other reasons that I will not go into, NRA guys simply do not like Barack Obama. Shame on them. So Obama defeats Hillary Clinton in the primaries. Then Obama goes on to win the American elections. So what Obama did was to grant massive hope for the average African. And if there is any young guy in Kamocha, if there's any young kid somewhere in Lugunja, if in Kampala, if there's any young guy in the outskirts of Mukono, regardless of their circumstances, they should read Barack Obama, that where there is hope and there is commitment, what he calls from his book, The Destiny of Hope. You can't come from the most difficult of spaces if you're focused, clear, and if you're destined, you will win. Barack Obama, the son of a Kenyan drunkard father who grew up with his mother in America, in the land of this rather predominantly racist space, which is normally quite hostile to the average African, meaning average black boy, including those from Jamaica, rises up, goes to Harvard, a law school, does very well, and then beats Hillary Clinton at the very early stages. So what happens? Because in part what he's referring into the demographics of polity in America, the population of women generally higher. Women tend to be much more progressive and liberal, but the population of the blacks, meaning the minorities, both blacks, Hispanics, and Asians, was on the up in America continuously. So meaning that the demographics will always predominantly tend to vote progressive. Americans don't like the word left, but basically the Democratic Party, which is basically progressive left political party, relatively. But most importantly, that the youth, generally, like you young guys of tomorrow, are going to Kampala to demand for your wealth being stolen by NRA, young people will tend to be much more open-minded, more progressive. So young white Americans, while their fathers and mothers, particularly fathers, will tend to be very racist, the young average American will tend to be much more open-minded, friendly. So meaning the demographics of those three composition favored the Democratic Party. So once Obama had been elected, had there not been a reaction, counter-revolution by the extreme right-wing American, back then the white establishment, we are an endangered species. So if you look at that, it means that therefore that the right-wing, in this case particularly the Republican Party, was unlikely to win elections again soon. So came the politics of hate, and the establishment, including billionaire American whites, threw everything and backed Donald Trump to win. So that's sort of part of the background. But quickly, American presidents usually are not generally very young people. Ronald Reagan was not necessarily very young. Bush himself was not particularly Bush Senior, particularly if he won the second round of elections. But I don't really think, maybe for the first time I will say these things, that it's not about age. And my good friend Spire refers to one of his comments that the events of tomorrow is not a youth thing. And as Ochieno of UPC, I repeat, it's not a youth thing. It's Ugandan things, our issue thing. Corruption is not a youth thing. Corruption is a national crisis. Corruption is a national theft. It impacts on and affects everybody else. In fact, the older people are possibly much, in the immediate terms, they're much more affected. They're the ones who are more vulnerable. They're the ones who possibly don't have the energy. They're the ones who don't even have hope for tomorrow. So you could put it in very many ways. So it's everybody else. I think I sort of lost my train of thought in there.
I wanted
what on the age
just
thing,
a minute.
Yeah.
I wanted you to, because you've given us a very good background, which I appreciate, but I want you to really address the question itself. Can we now say that the old elderly, I don't use the word old, the elderly, especially people who are in that bracket of age, do they lack the capacity to lead a country?
I think maybe because I'd gone around, you're right, I'd sort of missed the line of that. Actually, not necessarily, and Ugandans will find it surprising that I'm raising it. In broad terms, in Uganda, one of the reasons why people are opposed to Museveni and call him very old, in fact, some people suggest he's older than his age, is simply because Museveni has been around for 40 years. Museveni has done absolutely nothing to grow this country. Museveni instead has destroyed it. And in any case, as we said from the beginning, Museveni came to rule this country by force, and is continuing to rule it by force. one of my favorite politicians in the world is an American, Bernie Sanders, because of the progressive left position. One of my favorite friends, actually, in Britain, is Jeremy Corbyn. You know, of course, some of my friends in the Labour Party find it quite discomforting because he's radically left.
Okay.
These are elderly people, but you know what? Both those people, the majority of their supporters in both America and Britain are predominantly young people. So it's not about age; it's about what people represent. But Joe Biden leaving government in the last 4 years, Biden has done more in terms of policy programs development and impact on America than most other American presidents in recent times have done in their four-year terms. The only problem is that, well, there's an underlying issue with Joe Biden. So it's less about age, but more about age and his health conditions. So therefore, meaning he's struggling. And so it doesn't actually augur well, particularly when you have a very loud America with people like Donald Trump. And that's it. I think it was the right thing for him to go because already was beginning to become an embarrassment. So age per se is not the issue, but it was important that he actually left. But maybe it's also showing us that, well, these people love their country and their political parties more than they love themselves.
Thank you so much.
I think I don't agree with my friend Joseph on age. Age is a very serious factor when it comes to work. It is very, very serious. I want you to these people have been around.
Wouldn't my friend say it after that?
Just
going to just keep me out of this?
No,
you're going to make a conclusion.
Yes, we'll have time.
Now, look at Museveni.
In a minute, sir.
Museveni's leadership from 1986 to around 1996. Compare that period to 2010 to date.
Okay, let's leave our viewers.
You realize that age is a very serious factor.
Thank you so much. Honorable Awich, the floor is now yours, and we've given you all the time.
He has been intimidating you.
No, he has not. He rarely does that, sir. What do you
Thank
think?
you so much. I don't, because of the discipline we have in the
and I'll reiterate it
and
here.
he's coming back
because he has never interrupted any of you. Let's give him time. Sir, what do you think about Joe Biden's decision to stand for presidency again?
Joe Biden's decision is a good one, and I really attribute it to a word that none of my colleagues said. It's a health condition, clinical. It's a clinical matter. It's a clinical matter which any doctor would see that he had a medical condition which leads him to forget. You see, age reacts on people differently. It is either your genetic strength or your bringing up, or even other environmental factors like exercise or the food you're exposed to. So you can be of the same age with somebody, but you manifest differently. You manifest differently. So that's why I concur with my friend from the Congress. Today is really speaking wisdom on that one.
As always.
That age is not that one. So the Joe Biden's issue is more of a clinical matter, a medical matter, than the age.
So if he were healthy, it would be okay for him to come and stand?
Yes, if he was healthy, if he wasn't sick from that kind of sickness that brings forgetfulness, it would be okay.
Which is a consequence of age.
Therefore, but it could catch him even when he's 50 or even when he's 40. So it is good that he realized that his clinical status couldn't make him proceed and opted out, which is a good thing. But some of us have been seeing the back and forth of the American thing is that it's much bigger than the age and the two. In any case, there's an age of two difference with Trump.
Yeah, because
but
Trump is.
I like to share my views that with our big brother, the Americans, and the generally capitalist West, there's a big, big problem. Capitalism is being threatened by its own decaying system.
That's correct.
It's really being threatened. And if you see all leadership in France, the young man who is married to quite, you know, very weird way of doing things. The capitalist, that is choice. So generally the capitalist countries are in a challenge. The only country that is so far safe is German. Why German? Because German imported the entire literature from Eastern German with the its form education of East German. That's why Mackerel, the lady, could actually lead until she said she didn't want it anymore. So German is still picking up from the former socialist with clear thinking line, clear literature. The whole of Western capitalism is, even the literature, apart from science, which is independent, because science, whether you are east or left or right, science is science. But the other literature that is intended to subdue the thinking mind is very awash in Western Europe. I mean, you go to the bookshelves, you will find books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Get Rich in 1 Week, as if you're a witch doctor, getting rich in 2 months, what? The kind of literature that is just meant to, it's not. So, and the final one of the tests was recently in COVID. COVID tested the Western civilization, the capitalist civilization, and killed in, you could see mass grave burials with an ideally a good medical, presumably good medical situation. It was a real test. The burial in Italy was like mass grave, burial in Spain, burial in America, in New York, everywhere. So possibly it is time that our Western big brothers think about the status quo and how to make it better.
Okay.
So they are really moving in circles. It's a big challenge.
Some people think that your leader should also borrow a leaf from the decision of Joe Biden. He's around literally the same.
He can't, because I already told you that Joe Biden case is a clinical matter.
No, but here in Africa, you don't even know the clinical matters of
it
African
manifests. It manifests.
So how can we say?
It manifests. How did that of the Biden manifest? You already gave the example. Within, you yourself said within less than what?
Less than an hour here.
Less than an hour it was manifesting, talking very uncoordinated things. So you can't hide it. You can't hide it. So it manifests. You gave the example in less than an hour. The manifestation was being seen. So for us, we think that Biden did the right thing. But of course, we have some sentiments that would seem to favor Trump. For example, it is really not democratic for a power or one part of the civilization to superimpose their civilization. For example, we may vary on many issues, whether democracy, religion, or same-sex, or what. But you see that Trump seems to think that that is not the way to go on imposition on others. It could be your right to be gay or not, but don't impose it on others. And to us, we think that is a way to go. Okay. And then migration, it has really been, some people seem to think is against Africa. You see, if you went to any airport, even in London, Africans are the least number of people migrating. The biggest migrations are from Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. You find a whole line at the airport. So those are bigger migrants, like in America. There are 11 million Mexicans in America, 11 million. So when Trump talks about migrants, well, it's not really particular about Africans. About Africa. It's not particular about, it's really, and that's why there's a threat of him losing votes from speaking votes. So his views about migration is a general view. But for me, I'm even saying, why would our people really go? Why don't we struggle and make our situation better? We make our position better.
Who wouldn't want to stay in the United States?
I don't want it myself.
Because you're wondering about which?
Then why do you enable people go to Dubai?
I have ever to explain this.
Has a good life. Whenever Rich is
listen,
a good car,
I served in Geneva for 8 years as a UN judge of human rights. When I was in Geneva after 8 years, I was even offered a job in United States for human rights.
Exactly.
But I declined it. I declined it. I came back home, and it took a long time before my next deployment. So whatever it is I'm saying...
Which you're sounding like... the context is different, but Marie Antoinette, who says that if you cannot afford bread, eat cake. Because if you ask your Ugandan, why would they want to go to the United States of America? Really, if you were in Uganda like 45 years ago, wouldn't you want to really go back to America?
No.
But they are dying to go to Saudi Arabia. What about
because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
See, the labor mobility, I've explained this long ago.
Yes.
I've always explained this concept of labor mobility, and I'm not going to go back to it. But I have explained it. If somebody insists, I can do it again. The world is needing labor mobility.
Yes, yeah, you've
so for me,
it here.
that is why you have the 11 million Mexicans. But if they don't want us, what do we do? I am saying that we have more tasks to make our country safer and better than going there. But my point is, Trump issues of migrants cut across.
Okay.
And I'm saying, even when you seem to think Africans are going, even if you look at an airport, Congressman lives in UK. Congressman will tell you that the line in immigration of people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they are much more longer than any line from Africa trying to enter UK. So we're very small thing. Okay. Therefore,
as you're concluding, please add on the issue of Kamala Harris. She stands to be the first woman president to become president in the United States. Do you think there is a chance for her, if you are to look at it from your perspective?
But he's supporting Trump.
That is what you're saying. He has his own opinion.
The dynamics, the electoral dynamics in America is funny. She may not. Remember that you brought in the element of winning majority votes as opposed to, you see, in their system, which the Congress use here in Uganda. Did you know how UPC elect their party president? For example, if you vote Ibanda, there's Ochieno, there's a Kena Obore, there's a Lara Tuno or somebody. If a Kena gets 41 votes, he gets 39. Yes. Olara Tuno gets 38. The Ibanda is counted under Akena. So meaning that in Umbarara, he could get 51 votes. And so you can actually win the majority vote, but lose the what? So that is it. So their system is complete. Yeah, that is the last election of UPC. Okay. In other words, a district is counted under. So if you won in Wakiso, for example, where there's a bigger vote, so the possibility of somebody winning majority vote as opposed to district is there. The Congress seems to be doubting, but anyway, we'll have his say.
No, clarify. Not a fair point, but I'll clarify.
So therefore, that is part of the dynamics in the electoral system. But also they have their issues, the women, so I wouldn't even want to speculate the winning now. But if she won, she would lead. Because the state system in America is so strong that anybody would be there. It is the state which makes them. Probably even a president has a written speech. On the issue of Israel, the policy is clear.
Okay.
On the issue of this policy is clear. So
everything is prepared.
Everything is prepared. It's a capitalist state-dominated system. Anybody would lead.
Thank you so much, Honorable Pollar Awich. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. You're still watching the Hotline Show. We have 15 minutes to the end of this particular first hour. But before we end the first hour, it's time flies when you're having fun. So I think you're having fun. Let me come to you, Honorable Ochieno. In just 5 minutes, I want you to comment on Kawaka. He returned to the country yesterday night. And a lot of things have been spoken about the controversy, his trip to Namibia. Even the Namibian government refused to, you know, give him a visa or extend his particular visa because of the bad publicity that was around this particular issue. And many people were doubting, saying that your government has been, you know, abducting him. You know, the school of thought.
Okay.
Ugandans,
Now,
have they
I just hope you're not suffering from Biden disease.
Not yet.
Have you heard what he said?
No, I know.
He's describing me as Ochieno.
Ochieno.
So are you also suffering from Biden? What? At that age, would we
just undermine the power of the youth? You know?
At that age, would we say you are also clinically challenged?
I'm not clinically challenged.
So I hope not, because you are making the same mistake Biden is making.
Don't undermine the power and privilege of the youth tomorrow.
Now, on His Majesty the King's status or matters around him, we thought that Buganda Kingdom would handle the matter. And therefore, as a citizen of Uganda, the government would simply come in when called if there's need. And therefore, the matters between him and the government of Namibia is basically caused by his subjects. Some countries wouldn't like to be shaded in bad light.
Yes.
There was demonstration in Denmark, in UK, everywhere, mentioning Namibia. And a country like Namibia, remember, they have come from a very strong revolutionary struggle against the white regime. They got their independence, they fought for it under Swipo. So they wouldn't want to dirty their name. And therefore that is a decision they took, and Uganda couldn't do otherwise. Otherwise, the government, if Buganda Kingdom was handicapped, whether in terms of resources or otherwise, or even if they wanted to request for the extension of his stay, I'm very sure that President Museveni would do what he could. But the matters of the Kabaka is a matter of Buganda Kingdom, and therefore whatever the Namibian government did, I think they did it in good faith, because the agitation and the quarrel were coming from Buganda as a subject. But now that he's back, we wish him well, and he is going to have his kingdom within the laws, within the granted laws of or how a kingdom runs in a republican country like Uganda. And when it needs help, it will be helped.
Okay, thank you, Major Awich. Also, the mistrust of Ugandans. Let me come to you, Kazooba, Charles. Ugandans mistrust everything, and this time round, they have been proven wrong. Especially people who have been saying that the government has abducted the Kabaka and things like that. What do you make of his return to the country? Looking healthy, looking okay.
You know, I come from a lineage of kings.
Wow.
I'm a royal. Even my name would tell you that. I have kept wondering why NRM keeps undermining kingdoms.
Undermining the kingdoms, it restored.
There is a time that Kabaka Mwenda Mutebe would not even receive President Museveni's calls. There is a time that King Oyo went on hunger strike. I had an opportunity to meet Prince Barij, the late Prince Barij, at his home. And his words were not very comforting. President Museveni looks at kingdoms as other power centers which should be controlled and managed, because they have followers with unquestionable loyalty. Now, I saw the president the other day say that he was not involved. That is not true, because I don't think that his minister, the state minister for ICT, Nabosa Sevugwao, took up the task independent of the president. She must have consulted him in regard to the Vantaka travel to Namibia. It backfired. And it's good that it backfired. You imagine somebody is sick, bedridden.
Bedridden? The healthy man who came back.
And people just want to go and beshame him, show how bad his
That's
physical.
how you are perceiving
I'm
it.
telling you what.
Some people wanted to just confirm that their Kabaka was alive.
And not bedridden.
No, he's a royal and he's also a diplomat, you know, so...
Yeah. No, I'm not so talking about perception.
We should learn.
Because some people can see a 9 and others see a 6.
We should learn.
But is it true he was bedridden, according to him?
We should learn to respect people, especially at that level. You understand?
Yes, sir.
If somebody is in hospital, the person you can consult is their family. It is their family that should even permit you. But consistent pleas from the Kawaka's family to give him privacy fell on deaf ears. Instead, elements within the NRM government have wanted to cause dramatic divisions within the kingdom.
Why do you say it's NRM?
I know what I'm speaking.
Correct thing?
President Museveni was not happy with the support he got in Uganda in the last election. That is a fact. And there are consistent efforts to undermine Uganda, which could be good for the NRM. No problem. But it should not be at the expense of somebody's life. Somebody like the Kabaka. You imagine the harassment, the humiliation he has undergone. That a country even refuses to renew his visa.
Because he's subject.
Because he's on medical treatment. Because of the humiliation orchestrated from here in Kampala.
By his subjects.
Do you think it is his subjects? You think me at my age I'm such naive? I'm not naive.
What don't we see? What don't we see that is behind?
I'm very angry with the way President Museveni plays his politics when it comes to these power centers. Let me tell you, Uganda is now on fire. One day this country is going to explode. Because naturally, there are power centers that are supposed to hold the country together. Religions, the churches, the mosques and others, they are supposed to hold people together. The kingdoms, these cultural institutions, they are supposed to hold people together. Now when you destroy all these, what will happen? Whom will people listen to when this country begins burning? Whom will they listen to? Do you think the Kabaka is happy with what is going on? If tomorrow something sparked up riots in Buganda, do you think he'll have the patience to talk to his subjects?
That come down.
Or he will just keep quiet? There is a problem.
I want you, just before we go for the break.
The president has always insisted that these kingdoms should not involve themselves into politics. Now, who is taking politics into kingdoms?
But where is your evidence? Because you're raising a lot of bizarre accusations to the person.
And I'm very angry.
Do you have evidence to back up some of the statements that you're making, sir?
I've told you. The person behind the Bataka travel.
It's Nabosa.
Nabosa. A minister in Museveni's cabinet. In fact, even the president admitted that they met him.
What was the Bataka's demand? What were they demanding?
You understand? Now,
what did the president admit?
He admitted that he met them with Nabosa.
He met the Bataka, and he has been meeting Bataka for
yes, over that travel.
Even he met the Bataka.
No, I'm talking of the travel to Mabibia.
That's what I'm trying to.
That is what I'm talking about. I'm not discussing any other issue. Do you really think these guys sold their cattle or goats to go to Namibia?
They are not poor people.
This is taxpayers' money from the state. But what was the motive? To embarrass the Kabaka.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short commercial break at just 3 minutes to the top of the hour. When I come back, there's a gentleman who has been shaking his head in affirmation. That is Honorable Joseph Ochieno. We'll be starting with him, and after that, we shall head straight into the topic of discussion today. The march to Parliament happening tomorrow. What are the pros and cons? Please send more of your messages. I'll be reading them subsequently as we continue with the program. This is Digitalk TV, and you're watching The Hotline Show.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sawagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can. Although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Hi, welcome to the Political Dice.
MPC ebyobufuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political,
well researched,
accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Yes, State House oba ghetto.
Ani ayuga ku ground.
Ani gwe babuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kiza Besigye aleesa amaanyi.
Olwo fadda bafutoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwo jeema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simayanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamba apanyiga mawe.
Ebe na birindira nokuda Political Dice ku the Alternative Digital nange teditenja ewamune.
Farida Bikobere
Buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Two minutes past 8 p.m. We are into the second and final hour of this show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Let me come to Joseph Ochieno. We were talking about the Kabaka. What do you make of the return of the Kabaka? After everything we've talked about.
I think the most important thing is that the Kabaka returned and looking well. And I was actually generally personally quite relieved to see him looking well. In terms of the background stuff from the Palace and the Bataka, I have no information. But I have known from the Kabaka's own family, close members, some of his own very close relatives who are my friends, how the Bataka can sometimes advise and misadvise. These are stories I got in terms of very serious formal conversations I was having with some of the family members when they're reflecting on the experience of the Kabaka's father, particularly in the 60s. Some of the advice and actions that led to the conflicts, the critical conflicts between the kingdom and then central government, and that led to the abolition of kingdoms, the exile of the king at the time, Sir Edward. Those particular family members and friends of mine, very close family, thought that in many cases the king may have been misadvised. Now, of course, there are nuances and suggestions. Charles talks from authority. I have no reason to disbelieve him. He is a royal, and one of the things that we would ask is why his kingdom is not very up to date. I might tell you some of the reasons of why, some of the suggestions about how politics has been played with these monarchies. So I have a reason to believe him, and particularly, of course, the fact that you can have a divisive, divided Bataka. Since we're talking about some of the things during break, we know that many followers of these programs are themselves royals, including some of my own colleagues in the back room. Knowing very well that some of this division is political. In terms of details, we don't have the evidence, but we should be able to use the best of the arguments. So if Charles says that, look, the comments by Museveni, the comments by his minister, and the arguments for why these people had to go to Namibia is very quite clearly conflicted. That said, I think from the Namibian authorities, I wasn't sort of surprised when the visa was declined. Not necessarily therefore that I partly disagree with Comrade Awich. I think it became quite easy for the Namibian authorities to decline for whatever other reasons. Because, yes, away from the revolutionary element, by the way, we supported SWAPO. The Namibian government is friends of UPC and friends of this country. And by the way, you young Ugandans, you contributed net to the liberation struggles of Namibia and independence of Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, and many of those other nations. So we did directly. But Namibia also is not one of those Southern African countries that would, or African countries that would want less possible about their revolutionary history, but really genuinely the polity of the country. They're not the kind of guys who would want to get entangled in diplomatic issues or be seen to be interfering. So I see it really from that perspective that they opted that, and the end is near. But for the king. But maybe what is in an indictment that we're not discussing is that it's an indictment on Mr. Museveni's 40 years. That after 40 years, why should Uganda's king be going to seek medical attention to a country that only attained independence just the other year? Why not in Uganda? Why not in our Botabika, where part of the land we're now being told is being sold to families and friends and in-laws, just down here? You know, why not in, I'm using Botabika as an example, I'm not making a conclusion about the nature of the situation. Some specialist hospitals here in Uganda, for us, UPC, were able to do it and to do it very quickly. Late President Milton Obote got assassinated at assassination attempts, and he was treated in Uganda. So maybe much more of an indictment of that. So basically, a situation in which we then end up going to humiliate the most important king amongst the monarchs in Uganda, and from the largest and proudest of the kingdoms and monarchies, is rather unfortunate. But we are delighted. The Kabaka is back home and looking good, and we definitely wish him and his kingdom well. And whatever happens, we hope that it does not stop his subjects from seeing the wider Uganda, which Uganda is under, in its rightful place. And I hope, therefore, that the young Buganda recognize that it's absolutely their responsibility to be part of the future Uganda, and so therefore to constructively participate in making sure that we have a better Uganda tomorrow, including in supporting a change constructively.
I'm going to give you 3 minutes, to respond to them.
Yeah, I am truly going to respond because I was the first to comment on this subject, and then my colleagues did, and I feel that there is some points that need correction. First of all, whatever we discuss in this era of technology is online, and people are watching us all over the world. So we have to be very mindful of our diction, our choice of words. Diction from the word dictionary. For example, if Charles says that Kabaka was bedridden, and then a Kabaka that you said 3 years ago we saw is different from the one who came.
Yes.
Really, the choice of words is meant to bias the mind of viewers and listeners in a negative tone, which is not good for our healthy discussion. We have to be factual and correct, and we're not in shortage of choice of words. We have to choose words and use it appropriately. It wasn't that. Two is
but
that...
you were sick.
Yes, but not bedridden. Two is that to insinuate...
Where do you get your information?
Let him first
regarding the bedriddenness?
You said it here.
Yes, I said it. And for you, where do you get your information?
From looking at the person who came back.
You're not a doctor, are
Let's
you?
continue.
You see, in ordinary grammar, we all know a bedridden person.
No.
In ordinary grammar, a bedridden person who is lying down, cannot walk, cannot sit, and even made to drink and eat. This is the understanding of bedridden, even if you go to Google and dictionary.
Okay, your other point,
So, the other thing is that to insinuate or to import President Museveni in the demands for Baganda is unfortunate. You see, you cannot say Bataka went to humiliate the king. There was a time when the colonialists would arrest the Kabalega of Bunyoro or the Kabaka of Buganda and even deport them in an island. They back on the ground, lie down. How do you tell me that a group of people who demanded to prove that their king is there, because some people thought the government had hidden the king or killed. It is them.
The statements.
It is them who wanted to go. And they were saying was artificial intelligence. It is not Kabaka. Even if it was me and they asked for transport fare, air ticket, and I know there's a propaganda that was artificial, I would even give the air ticket. I would say, and to humiliate.
Thank you so much.
Actually, your words now.
Let me just
No. His words confirm that these attackers are being sponsored by government.
I said, even if it was me. I said, even if it was me.
Let me come to you, Charles.
Fight corruption to do it.
So, except.
So, well, the international law provides for the demonstrations.
Even a while here.
Yeah, where on civil and political rights, yes. Then you have the African Charter,
yes.
On I think Article 28, 29. These provide for freedom of speech, first of all, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom.
Is it a
it
right
is a right.
or a duty?
It is a right.
Okay.
Now, there has been a lot of debate in the public domain regarding, has even intervened, ordered that some people be arrested. And indeed, some are now in Guzira.
Yes.
They have even been denied bail. Now, they have also complained about the state of infrastructure in the country, especially in the capital city. Lately, someone has been added onto them. Now, there are lots of problems, but the argument is that much of the money that is stolen, if put to good use, some of these problems is siphoned. The IGG has specifically talked of 10 trillion. But in real estimates,
What is behind his mind?
President Museveni, would you want him to allow protests? He would not.
You say this is a common cause.
Yeah, of course he would not. I mean, these protests could lead to, and now the excuse or the reasoning by the state and the president are that there are foreign interests sponsoring some of these people as subversive, not people who are expressing their dissatisfaction against the stealing of.
Typical NRM. I'm delighted young people have woken up and are waking up and they're joining Uganda People's Congress and others.
No, they don't want your political parties.
No, I am making a point.
Yeah, but they've been pertinent.
Joining and keep himself in power. So he's political, and it will tend to be partisan political anyway. And the fact that Ugandans rally around a common idea, does not necessarily mean that they're paying for money to buy slippers for themselves. They decided that they're going to change the Uganda shilling. And for 1,000 shilling, they took away 2 zeros. And add 2 zeros and multiply it by 30%, whatever. You can't do the maths. Then you know what it was, the kind of money. How much inflation, how this guy's killed our economy. The 30% that Mr. Museveni is, choose stealing our money from which donors have given us, Gavi, for people dying. You can imagine how many people have died as a result of this. So it's a criminal thing. So young Ugandans have got a right to say some of them lost their grandparents, need to be angry. And it's not about young Ugandans, I said, all Ugandans. So this corruption thing is, I'm delighted it's happening. So young guys have got a right to demonstrate. Number two, I first in 1987 participated in and co-organized at least one of the demonstrations from Makerere University. One of them was against the Americans when they bombed Benghazi, where they killed Gaddafi's child. At the time, I still had very strong anti-Gaddafi view because Gaddafi and others and some of Museveni's friends had supported Idi Amin that overthrew a government and destroyed our lives here. And but I said in principle, it was wrong for the Reagan administration to go and bomb an African country, any other country in this case, and killing Gaddafi's child. So that was almost like mean American terror against the Gaddafis, and thought it was unfair. So as Makerere University students, we mobilized and we demonstrated. So we came from campus and others, Bombo Road, wherever, into town, and Kampala is playing the world, So he took time. So Makerere students said, no. Why is Mr. Museveni not making statements? So again, we mobilized and we came to the streets of Kampala. We want to hear from Comrade Museveni about this thing. It was actually after, I think the following day Museveni issued a statement. So those are two demonstrations, putting the city to a standstill. These are big commercial centers around the world on particular days. So the nonsense that, oh, commercial thing, people who are selling, the impoverished people who are selling on the streets of Kampala, Luwero, and they caused the fire in Luwero. They've come to Kampala, they've caused the fire in the Central Bank of Uganda, the Central Bank. They've caused the fire in our trains and roads and networks. People's properties, don't target others, don't target people who look like the other that they don't like, don't even target, say, NRM politicians, even if Kasai is walking there. Right. Just ask for the police maybe just to arrest.
Then sometimes the state machinery itself starts with the force itself. They bring in...
That is actually not my word, because the Kenyan...
No, I'm saying...
but you're right, actually. Yeah. But, you know, I told
so
you, the Kenyan situation, actually, which Museveni says, that other people say this is not Kenya. You know, I think it's very, 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 very cheek that Ugandans are saying we are half humans. Ugandans are saying, these guys are saying Ugandans are half human, that the Ugandan youth whose money...
to protest and march to parliament.
It's okay.
And why?
Now, first I want to start from my colleague Charles here. Charles was that in this kind of discussion we also learn that international law is not supreme to national laws. They call among states. Even when you are ratifying, a state even has a provision to make reservation. Congress, are you listening?
I'm listening.
I guess you know this. That in Article 21, we as Uganda, we reserve the right. Okay? So a country even has rights to make reservation that we are not going to be bound by these provisions. Yes. So you cannot now therefore cite an instrument which is negotiated by states where you even have a right to say, well, we are ratifying municipal here, meaning national law.
Thank you for the education, sir.
Yeah. Now,
yeah, but also misleading.
Let him first,
let me first correct him.
Sir, let him first submit.
Let me first correct him on that particular point. Human rights hand in hand with democracy. You cannot claim to be democratic and you cannot, whereas you ignore human rights. Now, in liberal systems like the US, our constitution,
what are you trying to educate?
Now you cannot claim that we are masters on this area better than the international system. Although it is very true that,
for example, in gender issues, most international laws, Arab countries have made reservation on provisions which put a man equal to
a woman.
All Arab countries will say
it's okay. It's okay. Let him submit. That is his submission.
Now,
let's respect him.
I want to do the basic, simple things here. One, is there corruption in Uganda? Yes, here. President Museveni is on record on saying, first of all, it is on record that there has ever been anti-corruption march here. You walk to Kololo. You don't come from you don't drop from heaven to Kololo. It is a rain, you walk from point A to Kololo.
So if I want to walk tomorrow, why does that mandate me to play with fire?
As you all know, I've been in Chankwanzi for a cabinet permanent secretary and central executive committee of the ruling party retreat. The wind, but how to do it. If demonstration is defined as expressing views, expressing feelings, expressing hunger against a particular subject called Kenya, it's saying that the nature of demonstration that you want to express anger against corruption, and yet the hidden motive and the backers are different. The backers are tied to leaders who are saying, we shall remove Musaja.
Do you know that there are abductions happening as I come to... Kajambia was abducted yesterday, in the win hours that made...
I'm hearing from you.
Yes, I'm informing you. Nambasa Shamim, nobody's seeing her.
The point here is guarding against other infiltrators who would want to misuse the demonstration. Otherwise,
by their own nature, I can have cause to demonstrate. They don't necessarily have to be related to, you know, some of our good friends it has got 22 people who are suspects who should be in Luzira. And he's the very same person who allegedly recently appointed somebody who's not have gone to prison, not be working and working. No, just think about it, just think about it. So the guy tells us to choose a particular Sunday. Okay, it's all right. You can even come with us, you know. And then you get spoiled. Police is law enforcement. It also includes detection and prevention of crime. Granted, you know what I'm saying. So when people are going to demonstrate, you know, heard over. So. Picking direction. But what Mr. Museveni forgot is that for him, he puts traffic in Kampala to a standstill. Outrage. And it's an outrage particularly because it's the very same Mr. Museveni who a few weeks ago, we thought, and I nearly agreed with the Comrade Awich a few weeks ago, we nearly came and said, now time Mr. Museveni, he's now very seriously taking this one seriously. He's even dragging these guys to go to Chang. Benjamin said, we are going to go for lifestyle audit. Some of these people are basic officers who earn 650,000 shillings, you know, but they've got properties worth, you know, billions of Uganda shillings. Then it's, my daughter. No, Ugandans, you've got a right to demonstrate. And you should be going to.
Let me come to Charles. Charles, if you remember a few weeks ago, there was one lady, she was just alone, holding a placard and protesting against corruption. That woman did not throw a stone. She did not abuse anybody. She did not steal from anybody. But you see how she was arrested by the police. She was arrested by the police. So I don't know now what she was doing. Was it violent? Is it violent? How peaceful can it be so that the system can understand that now this is a peaceful protest?
You see, Karuhanga, it is very wrong and very misleading, by the way, to impute that there is democracy in Uganda. You are dealing with a dictatorship. So those things are bound to happen. Of course, Major Awich might deny. But the reason they even keep insisting that we are original NRA itself shows you how dictatorship runs. Regarding these demonstrations, first of all, we should understand the end game. What do we intend to achieve? He will not.
He fears.
He believes in his gun and he knows his gun will protect him.
Or he thinks so.
What? Because that is also possible. And me, I don't find anything wrong with discussing that. It has not started today. Actually, the genesis of Magna Carta, which paved the way for most of these rights that we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, a government can be removed forcefully through civil disobedience.
Yes.
But on this other side, this side is a little bit weak and divided.
Yes,
because of the corruption, you know, by President Museveni. Because ultimately, like I've told you, it can result in the removal of a government.
That's true.
That people don't want.
In the Arab Spring.
And therefore, President Museveni. Now, the Major Awichis also want to stay there. So that they can manufacture whatever information they want to make sure that they appease the old.
There's pressure.
Because President, from the way I know, President Museveni has mastered this, what you want to achieve. Are they going to stop stealing? I don't think so.
Okay, lastly, because I want to bring in Honorable Awich, the last time Ugandans tried to protest in 2020, in fact, they did not protest. But
yes. Do people need to necessarily die? And if you don't mind, just a 30-second intervention. Part of what I was actually trying to say earlier, what I was advising the police, if you know that there are elements who want to obstruct, use intelligence, you guys will give you a lot of money.
Particular question.
I want to paint a clearer picture.
And be a realist.
So that Ugandans can understand. Number one, President Museveni won alone.
Yes, sir.
You're also dealing with the numerous factions within his government who are fighting to succeed him. They will not allow.
But she was incarcerated by Uganda police. To what extent do you see how the police think so?
Now, on the question of the lady, I read it, and I don't think I have the authority to talk from the media perspective. But I think it needs a case-by-case study of this matter. And even then, I would, if I studied it on a case-by-case, I would want to know the position of the party that I talk. So, therefore, it means that even now, since I said the position of the party on this particular matter is not clear, it means even the position of Museveni would still not be clear. Would he be okay? Conflicts with that of the president, then that I will later on be bound by his position. But this is my consciousness, that the woman should have been protected and not done anything. That is what it means by peacefulness or not. I've stated three. Grabbing it, taking, let's assume it wasn't even NRM, assuming it was UPC, which was in power. It's not correct because the constitution of a country provides for methods of removing a government.
Breaking
this
news.
time But first let me answer this question where you said, is it okay for people to then that government therefore becomes legitimate? But also then that government therefore becomes legitimate. But also Kelsen theory says, should you fail, then it is treason. So do you want X is in power, even if you don't call it NRM? Now that government X is in power, it is due